Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Interfaith Council of Sacramento annual Power of One event, where we recognize and honor community leaders and local organizations. We are so glad that you can finally meet in person. Thank you for coming, everybody. My name is Akram Keval, and I'm the board member of the Interfaith Council of Sacramento. According to the program, as you may have seen, Richard McFarland was the MC for tonight, but due to unforeseen circumstances, he cannot be with us tonight, so you got me. Thank you. So first, I'd like to introduce our President of the United States, not United States, sorry. Wrong event. President of the Interfaith Council of Sacramento, Serene Irby. Sorry, wrong event. That was intentional, by the way.
I just got a huge promotion. Before I say my prepared speech, I would like everyone to stand for a moment of reflection and respect. This is to acknowledge the 200 mass shootings our country has experienced so far this year. And specifically, I want to acknowledge the victims of the Buffalo grocery store shooting. They were innocent victims who were just going to their local grocery store to buy food for their family. And someone with hate in his heart and racist thoughts in his mind decided to change that day for everyone. So we mourn the tragic loss of life and injuries, and our deepest sympathies go out to the victims, their families, their friends, the entire Buffalo community, and the United States as a whole. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you so much. You can be seated. So I am the president of the Interfaith Council, not of the United States of America. So we last held our Power of One in May 2019. It seems so long ago, but it's an annual event truly to recognize community leaders and organizations that do so much great work for our community. I think we can all agree that COVID has taught us a lot. When everything shut down in March of 2020, houses of worship had to shut their doors, learn how to Zoom, and how to live stream on Facebook and YouTube, truly bringing religion into the 21st century. Meanwhile, the nonprofits and community service organizations were drastically affected. Many had to shut their doors totally, creating true hardship for those they served. For others, the true boots on the ground, out in the streets every day, they soldiered on as best they could under public health requirements, social distancing guidelines, sometimes going virtual, and definitely doing smaller outreach. Individually, we've suffered untold losses with fears due to COVID. The isolation that we felt in sheltering in place, the illnesses, and of course, the losses. Many have lost multiple family members to COVID, and our hearts truly break for them. But I wonder, what we have learned during these last 2 years. Hopefully, we have learned that the Creator is ever present in our lives to love, inspire, nurture, and sustain us, especially in times of troubles. That our prayers and devotions can be said at any time and anywhere. And even on Zoom, prayers can be inspirational. We've relearned how very small our world is and how we truly are all one people, all children of God. And we've learned how interconnected we all are in so many different ways. And I think we all agree we've gained a greater appreciation for family and friends and relationships. Just being here tonight, seeing each other, meeting new friends, it's so joyous just to be here. Tonight, we are honoring community leaders who, in some cases, have served in their chosen areas of service for decades. Not for fame or glory, not for fortune or power, but to truly, truly make Sacramento a better place to live for everyone. You know, the golden rule isn't all faiths. It's just rephrased differently. In Christianity, it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In my religion, the Baha'i faith, is prefer your neighbor to yourself. I truly believe that each and every honoree tonight lives by the golden rule. So please join the Interfaith Council in celebrating each honoree tonight for all that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Serene. Before we begin, I'd like to call Father Michael Kiernan to the stage for invocation. Father Michael Kiernan is the pastor at St. Mary's Beale Air Force Base. Father? Thank you.
God of mercy, gentleness, kindness, and goodness, you are the creator of all the world and all that is in it, all its peoples, whom you created out of love and compassion for their good individually, for all the faiths, and indeed for all society. We ask your blessing upon us all gathered here in this great event this evening. We ask your blessing upon all who will receive the Power of One awards in appreciation of service, caring and goodness that they have done in our society in various ways. Pray for all who give back to the community in so many ways, as we will see this evening. We ask your blessing upon us all to give us gentle hearts, humble spirit of service, and awareness of the beauty and goodness that are in all people, as Serene said a moment ago, and just help us to make the world a better place, to heal the great challenges and difficulties that we face, to give us an awareness of your love in our lives, and to help us to become more part of the divine day by day, so that we may grow closer to you, O Creator of all that is beautiful and good, and also our brothers and sisters in the human family, so that all may be one in the greatness of God. Amen.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, next I'd like to introduce a board member from SMUD. SMUD is a long-standing sponsor and supporter of Interfaith Council of Sacramento and Power of One event. I would like to call now on Rosanna Herber, Director SMUD Board. Please come to the stage. Thank you, Rosanna.
Thank you. Oh yeah, come on, I love applause. Please. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rosanna Herber, and I'm your SMUD board member if you live in Curtis Park, Land Park, Pocket, Greenhaven, big part of Elk Grove, all the way down to Walnut Grove. And if you don't live in those areas, I'm still your representative. I want to be your best friend on the SMUD board. So you need anything from SMUD, let me know. You know, it's really a great honor to be here tonight to share a little bit with you about SMUD. You know, as board members, we all get the opportunity to pick which events we want to go to speak at. You know, sometimes you go in front of, the Metro Chamber or, the Business Journal, all kinds of different opportunities. And when I saw this one, I said, I want to do that one. And the reason why, and I'm going to just share something personal here, is that, I have a deep, strong faith inside of me. Always have from my childhood. Wanted to be a priest, but I was Catholic. So I ended up, getting more involved in the faiths that allow women to be leaders. And I always struggled with how do you bring politics together with spirituality? How do those two meet? Because politics is a world that, people are constantly fighting and punching. And, in our spiritual communities, we're there to, be of service and to love. And for the longest time, I struggled with how do I bring these things together? As a human being, how do I walk in both of those worlds? And I wanted to be here tonight because I wanted to thank the wonderful folks out there who lead congregations and who engage with folks to help them learn the truths that I've learned, that we're all one, that we're here to make the world better, that each and every one of us is special and has something to offer. And so I want to thank you for, instilling that in our whole community. And I want you to know that SMUD is your partner in this. SMUD and the SMUD board are dedicated to making the community better. And we do this in a variety of ways. If you're a nonprofit organization and you haven't gone to smud.org and asked for a sponsorship for one of your events, I'm telling you, do it tomorrow. We work to engage with all nonprofits. There's very few organizations that probably don't receive some kind of engagement with SMUD, because SMUD is your public utility. We are you and you are us. And I want to share with you, some of the bigger things that SMUD has done. We fund 36 nonprofits representing an investment of $650,000 through our Shine grants. And our Shine grants are grants that SMUD has put together to help communities be stronger. And isn't that what we do? Try to unite to make things better for the rest of our community around us. So if you're a community and you feel like you would benefit from doing a project with SMUD, usually it's infrastructure, Maybe you need solar, maybe you need lighting, maybe you need energy efficiency measures. SMUD is here to help you do that, because that's part of creating community. We also support, the larger community through SMUD Cares, which is a volunteer program where we provide volunteers to work at your events. All you have to do is, again, go to that smud.org website and say, I'm working on this event, and I'd like to see if anybody at SMUD would like to volunteer for it. Another thing that SMUD does is, during the pandemic, a lot of different businesses were impacted. SMUD, suspended our shutoffs for not only residences, but for businesses too, who couldn't pay. And in the instances of 4 chambers of commerce who serve underserved communities, the Rainbow Chamber, the Latino Chamber, the Black Chamber, and the Asian Chamber, we loaned SMUD staff to them. We had our employees go out and work with those nonprofits to help keep them alive, because things were crazy and terrible. And, that is another way that SMUD is embedded into your community, and you are us and we are you. The last thing I want to say is that SMUD is now embarking on the biggest dream that we've ever had, the biggest project. It's our moonshot. And what is it? It's to go zero carbon in the electricity supply by 2030. The state's going to do it in 2040. Some places are doing it in 2050. SMUD is leading the way in the country by saying we're going to do it by 2030. And why? Because our planet is in huge danger. We have got to get rid of carbon. And if we don't stand up and say it's important that our kids can breathe, that, we're one of the worst cities for asthma, when we get rid of the carbon, those kids will be better. And we want to ask you to be on this journey with us. And you can help by going to Clean Power My City at smud.org and looking at, the variety of ways that SMUD will walk with you as you go carbonless. I'm replacing my hot water heater with an electric heater. I'm looking at, changing out my HVAC system with, a gasless system. I just got a solar installation, but, that's my gift to the generation to come because I never had kids. But these kinds of actions make our community stronger. SMUD is your partner, and SMUD is so proud of the work that you're doing to make our community stronger. And all the people who are going to be honored here tonight are tremendous people, are folks who've really made a difference. And I know some of them, which is kind of cool. So with that, I'll say, remember that SMUD is your community partner. I'm your friend on the board. Come to SMUD if we can do anything to support you. We're very proud to be a sponsor for the Power of One.
Thank you, Rosanna. So we are privileged this evening to hear from Phil Tilbert, United States Attorney, Eastern Division of California. Phil served as an assistant U.S. Attorney for 18 years. Prior served in the Criminal Division, Department of Justice. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Phil Tilbert.
Thank you, Akram. I really appreciate that warm welcome, and thank you all. I'm really honored to be here today. Thank you to the Interfaith Council and to Carol Lowe in particular for all the work she put together in making tonight a reality. For those of you who don't know me or know my office, again, I'm Phil Talbert. I'm the United States Attorney. The United States Attorney's Office is responsible for enforcing federal law, both criminal and civil. Our office does that in the Eastern District of California, which is 34 counties stretching all of the Sierra Mountains and the Central Valley, stretching from the Oregon border down to and including Bakersfield in the south. So we've got a big job. I've got a lot of attorneys in my office doing that work, either criminally or civilly. Joining me tonight from my office is Jisoo Kim. I just wanted to introduce her too. She's the Executive Assistant United States Attorney, which means that she's in the what we call the front office. It's really the leadership of the office of three attorneys who lead the office. Thinking back, I joined the front office, the leadership of the United States Attorney's Office here 11 years ago, and I've been either the number one or number two attorney in the office since then in leadership capacity. It used to be, when I first started, Ben Wagner, who was the U.S. Attorney during the Obama administration, selected me to be his first assistant United States Attorney. So I was the number two. And at that time, when I became what we term the FAUSA, the first assistant, I started attending community events. Before that, I was pretty much just working on my cases in court, both criminal matters in district court and appeals before the Ninth Circuit. But when I joined the front office, I became much more engaged in the community outreach that we do, and we do a fair amount of it. And then late in the Obama administration, Ben stepped down as the U.S. Attorney, which left me as the acting. And when I started going to community outreach events by myself, all I needed to do was to mention Ben Wagner's name. He had such a great reputation among particularly the interfaith community, but in all of the outreach the events that we did, that if I dropped Ben's name, then people would smile and they would applaud, and then I'd be accepted. Hopefully now I don't have to still drop Ben's name, but you notice I just did. But really seriously, we are really warmly welcomed when we are out in the community that we serve. And I tell all of my attorneys that we don't just serve the community, we live in the same community. So we are members of the community too. We have jobs to do, just like all of you do. And it's important for us to know that the people that we're representing are people that live among us too in the Eastern District of California. Now, it's a particular honor for me tonight to participate in tonight's program because I understand one of the honorees is John Fish, who's a past president of the Interfaith Council. When I started going to community outreach events, John was often a speaker or an MC or a host, as Akram often is too. And so to honor him, I think, is just a great decision by this group. He's always struck me as if you think of someone who would represent peace in a human form, I think of that with John. John just exudes peace and calm and composure and caring for his fellow man. And I learned a lot about the Sacramento interfaith community just going to events where John spoke and talked about the values that he held, that his colleagues held in the council. And I really learned from that. I also learned from, he's a great storyteller, as you all know, and so he usually had a good story. And I'm not that great a storyteller, but he always seemed to have a story that would bring home his point well and allow you to carry it away for that evening. So anyway, John, I'm happy to be here to watch you be honored tonight. What I want to say is that this council and the people associated with it, the work that you do in building community cohesiveness is just critical, particularly today. And I know President Irby already referenced the what can only be described as a massacre, a tragedy in Buffalo just 1 week ago. Today, 10 people were killed just going to the grocery store, as she mentioned. The killer, it appears, is someone who not only didn't come from that community, but didn't know any of the people that he killed, which is almost inconceivable, other than the fact that it is conceivable because things like this have happened. This kind of hate for people that someone doesn't know and acting out in that way and destroying lives is just horrific. And I know it's happened time and again, but it doesn't regularize it at all. It is truly awful. And even putting aside the massacres and shootings and killings like this, you look at our society and there's way too much evidence that hate is just a driving force. That whether it's our politics or the media or social media, it just seems like people are at each other over and over. And I can only think that things like this add fuel that lead to, whether it's Buffalo Massacre or just bullying in schools and things. The Unity Center exhibit upstairs I thought was really revealing. And there was I was glad that there were a lot of kid and adolescent voices that were heard up there, and just amazing what people experience, particularly our children experience today in life against this hate for a person that is unlike you, even if you don't know them at all. The reality is, you don't have to agree with someone, but you need to know how to talk with your neighbor. This idea that our society is a marketplace of ideas, I think is still a good one, other than when it becomes a marketplace of bad ideas. And when people hunker down and only talk to people who think like them, or they think are like them. So when I look at diversity, and I see a lot of diverse faces tonight, and it's represented in the exhibit upstairs, diversity is really a core American value. It's the best of America. America was supposed to be a land of opportunity. It's supposed to be still a land of opportunity for us and for our children. And America's been called a melting pot, but it's really not. We don't all melt in and all eventually look like each other and think like each other, right? So that's really wrong. It's more of it's a blended mixture, right? People come here from other places. Some people have been here through generations, their families. People have different cultures, people and practices, different religions and beliefs. And that's great that we have this blended diversity together. And we can get together and we can share our ideas and our, cultural practices and religious observances, and learn from each other in that way. And then overall, we should share common values of human dignity and respect for one another and just basic, getting along. Now, I'm going to talk about my family just a little bit. My parents, at the time they met, my father was the son of a doctor and a nurse, his parents, and he was on his way to medical school. He was working in a hospital, was finishing up college, came from a middle-class background, family was Methodist. My mother was the son of a Polish immigrant, literally someone who came over on the boat as a kid with his parents and his siblings and established life here. We had kind of a middle-class Methodist and meeting a very working class, if that, farming family, Polish Catholic. They fell in love. They at the time, they felt like they needed to elope because parents would not have approved. And so they did that. Eventually, they built a life for themselves, and I'm one of 4 children. We've got a nurse, an artist, a doctor, and I'm the lawyer in the family. And my parents are no longer with us, but if they were here, they would see 4 well-adjusted kids who all have their own lives, and of course they'd have a bunch of grandkids and even some great-grandkids by now. But that all started out with 2 people who came from very different backgrounds, with even, imagine, Methodist and Catholic, fairly different beliefs and at least practicing norms. My own children have grown up mainly here in this area. We live in Davis. Davis, because of the university, turns out to be, in some ways, a very diverse community. My kids, their best friends throughout the years turned out to be from, let's see, my son's best friend was from Ecuador. He had another good friend from Israel. I went to the Gurdwara of one of his other friends. He's got one of his, I think, best friend now is a Muslim. My daughter's good friends growing up were from Russia, from South Korea, and so forth. So they really had a big drink from the kind of diversity experience in America. And you know what? I think that was really good. I think they really benefited from that as people, and they're much more able to live in what I think is, today's America, a very diverse society, a diversity that really we should be celebrating by our differences, but also with our shared values of human dignity. For those people who don't think that they can learn from others who are not like them, I feel sorry for them. And they didn't learn some of those values and lessons along the way that I hope my kids did. We're really lucky to live in the Eastern District of California. Is really one of the most, as a federal district, there are 94 federal districts across the country. We're really one of the most diverse federal districts in the country. And Jisoo and I get to see this when we do community outreach up and down our 34 counties. There are people living here who have their families have lived here for generations, and there are plenty of people who just got here or got here 1 or 2 generations ago. There are a lot of people who are going to college, first generation college goers, and then there are people like me who's I'm not sure how far back. I'm sure I go several generations back for at least some of my family members going to college. So the interfaith community in Sacramento has established really a strong record of building community. What I see you doing is promoting things like understanding, acceptance, respect, kindness. Those values are things that I see you working on every day. These are positive values that we all share. Now, I'm going to quote, and apologies to the ministers and such here, I'm going to quote John Donne, an English minister, he was a poet too, although I understand this is his famous words from a sermon. And you'll recognize this, and I'm only going to quote the first couple lines. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. And what that says to me is we are all connected. Our values are all tied together as individuals. No matter what your religious or philosophical beliefs, we are in this life here on earth together for the period of time that we have. You, as members of various congregations across our community, are really in an advantageous position to do the work that you're doing in the interfaith community. Your churches, mosques, synagogues, gurdwaras, and other houses of worship are all focal points of your community. Think about that. There's, as we've seen other institutions across the United States break down to a certain extent, people are still connected to their communal house of worship, whatever that may be. And it plays an essential role in so many different lives. You are uniquely situated to help weave the fabric of our various communities together into a larger peaceful society, because you do run those focal points in our society. Since I became involved in my office's community outreach many years ago, I've really been just repeatedly impressed by the interfaith community's reach in Sacramento, the genuine friendliness and openness, and the dedication that you all have shown to building and maintaining bonds between different religions. As your U.S. attorney and as a member of the community who lives here, I ask that you continue this important work, which benefits all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now have the presentation of our Power of One Awards. First, we'll have Gabby Trejo, Executive Director of ACT. And to present this award, I would like to call Jason Wiener on the stage. Jason?
My family immigrated from Mexico, so I arrived to this country when I was 10 years old, and my family has grown. I have two beautiful children. They're twin boys that are toddlers. I was raised Catholic and have found a deeper connection to my faith and my identity as a Catholic woman when I started faith-based community organizing with Sacramento ACT. Sacramento ACT stands for Area Congregations Together, and we have been here in Sacramento for 31 years, serving the community and building what we call the beloved community. And the way we do that is by advocating for systems change, justice, and really teaching ordinary people how to self-organize and use collective power to create change. At ACT, we believe that people closest to the pain have the solutions to their problems. And so what that requires of us as a staff is to go out in the community and listen to residents, listen to members of our congregations to see what are the problems that they're seeing and what are some of the solutions that they want to see, and invite them to be architects of change. One story that comes to mind is the story of Gloria. Gloria is a leader from Our Lady of Guadalupe who is undocumented, and when I met her 9 years ago, she told me, "Gabby, I don't want to speak in public. Just tell me when I have to hand out flyers," right? And my vision for her was bigger than she can imagine. Eventually, she became involved in our fight for driver's licenses for undocumented immigrants in California. And we won as a state, thank God. But then after we won, she was talking to me and she said, "Gabby, I applied for my driver's license. And I realized that I can fill in the bubble to become an organ donor," which I was happy to do. But I am wondering, how come I can be an organ donor, but I cannot get health care? And to me, that was such a heartbreaking and very real question. It was a challenge for me as a leader in the community about how do we not just win policies, but how do we continue to have a larger vision for where the community needs us to step into? And started working with Building Healthy Communities, a local partner. As a collective with the coalition, we were able to bring healthcare coverage for undocumented immigrants in our county. And we're very proud to say that that program continues to exist to date. It is people like Gloria that are really the engine of any movement of social justice and how we think about equity and how do we live into this aspiration to provide a healthier and thriving community in this region where people are both seen and people are invited into a table where their voice is both heard and taken action upon. You know, Pope John II, I believe, has a quote that said, "No one is too poor to give or too rich to receive." And I think that allows us to be able to see how we can help others in whatever way that is. And the ways that we contribute to a better world is by being able to use the God-given gifts and bring them to the table so that we are able to have a collective effort that addresses all the issues that we're seeing. So that's how I would like to see change in the world.
Oh, I'm a little emotional watching that video because not only because it just speaks to so much who Gabby is, but because she was talking about the story of the woman Gloria, who was a young mother in our community. And I had the privilege of helping lead a candidate forum with her several years ago, and just to see her stand up in front of those candidates and other people who were interested in hearing what they had to say and represent was just incredibly powerful. I'm really honored to be here to present this award to Gabby for a number of reasons. One is because the Interfaith Council and the work that the Interfaith Council does is also very close to my heart. And also because Gabby is very close to my heart in lots of ways. She sometimes calls me her boss when she introduces me to people. She did that just today, by the way, because I'm on her board. But truth be told, our board is not Gabby's boss in any but the most legal way. We're there to support her leadership and help equip her and her team with what they need, but she doesn't need our direction. Gabby's somebody who's, as you heard in the video, dedicated to her own faith and her own community, but also really about building connections and within communities and between communities and honoring the faith of others. She really sees how we can support each other. I think about lots of the different contexts that she has been a leader. Immigration battles, both for healthcare and against some of the heavy-handed federal enforcement we saw over the last few years. Going to county board meetings to speak out against the dismantling of police oversight or sheriff's oversight. And then convening our community in times of need to just support each other, like we did just 2 weeks ago after the really horrible shootings that happened here in downtown, that clergy-led event to just for us to process together and really try and understand and move forward together. And also, I've had the privilege of helping and watching Gabby grow as a leader. She came on as executive director of ACT after being an organizer for several years. And I was already on the board when she stepped up as executive director. And so, watching and having tons of conversations on the phone or in person with her, as she thought about how do you support a staff who's out there every day, and listening to people's traumas, listening to people's needs, and setting an example for them herself as somebody who needs to take the time for her family, and balance all of those things together. has just been really incredible to watch. And then as she stepped up as a leader in our community, and the story that I'm thinking about here is the Aggie Square agreement that was signed just last year, wasn't it? So for those who don't know, Aggie Square is a large set of developments that's going to go in along Stockton Boulevard, where the UC Davis campus there will be building out many opportunities for health innovation, many opportunities for jobs, and it all sounds wonderful. It's taken a lot of years, a lot of leadership. And there's going to be a ton of new buildings going up, and all of that is great, except then Gabby started hearing through organizers and from others in the community, what about the people who live around that campus, who are in Oak Park and have seen wave after wave of displacement already coming their way, and knowing that this great, amazing, economic engine that's going to be built there or expanded there, what it means for them is probably, and they understood this really clearly, is probably that their rents are going up and they're going to get pushed out. And so Gabby took a risk. I remember some of those conversations. She was really worried about what this would mean, because it was going to go against the political leadership, some of the labor leadership in our community, to speak up for those residents and say, we need a better deal for them too. Not only the community benefits agreement that says that the construction jobs are going to go to people in our community and they're going to be union jobs, which is important, but also we need to find the people who aren't in those unions, and how is this going to benefit them. And so she stepped out there, took a risk, and helped lead a coalition that ended up coming to an agreement. And so after all of the worry and conflict, what came out of it is something that we all can support. More agreements around employment of residents, around helping residents with rental assistance and eviction prevention so that they can keep their homes. And I just really commend Gabby for her leadership in that, but also the vision that it took to step out there and say, no, we have to have that perspective for those residents, and not just the kind of consensus that had already developed around it. We talk a lot at SAC Act about power. And it's not the power of money. It's not the power of political representation or running for office and holding that kind of legislative power. It's not the power of being, the people behind the scenes who make the deals. It's the power of, as she said in the video, beloved community and bringing people together to understand the power that they hold already and build those connections. And so I'm really proud of my opportunities to work with Gabby. I'm very pleased that you chose to honor her tonight. And just to say that I think that she's going to continue to be a really important leader for this community into the future. Thank you. Yeah, Gabby, can you come up here, please?
Well, thank you.
Our next awardee is Liz Igra, creator and president of CVHEN. And to present this award, I'd like to call Jody Cooperman to the stage, please. Jody?
My family tree has been pruned. I am a child Holocaust survivor, and most of my family perished during the Holocaust. Only my mother and my uncle, her younger brother, survived the war from our immediate family. Now, I did make a family. I have 6 children, all happily married. I have 9 grandchildren who are the joy of my life. I survived by crossing the Carpathian Mountains in the middle of winter with my mother. And we had to hide under trees and during the day. And she kept me entertained. And when she entertained me, I made her repeat a story. Apparently, when I was very young, there was a Seder at our house. After the grown-ups left the table, there was a little bit of wine left in each glass. And apparently I drank that. And they literally found me under the table. I made my mother repeat that almost every day because I thought it was hilarious. So here is a story that binds me to my past, to my religion. I have been given a tradition, a culture. It's been handed down in a religious framework that I greatly appreciate, both an oral and a written tradition that I cherish. The essence of what's in my religion is also the essence of humanity. We have to try to make the world better. We will not necessarily achieve it, but we must try. I'm the founder of the Central Valley Holocaust Educators Network. This history opens window to every aspect of our lives. And I feel it is essential to know it. It is essential to try to understand it. And I feel it holds the answers to some of how we can achieve and appreciate what we have and what to avoid so that humanity can be free and just and understand our own biases, our own frailties. There isn't a thing in the world that touches each individual that is not illuminated by this history. So I teach it to teachers. I help children of survivors tell their parents' stories. I have created a resource library where people can access this history easily. And I offer workshops and help people come closer to this history and see how they can have an impact on the future. If I had a magic wand and changed the world, I want people to see what unites us and mitigate what divides us and take every opportunity to do that.
Good evening, everyone. Liz is on that camera back there. She is in her 80s, and her family was very concerned about her being in public with a bunch of people, even though we're all masked. Really, truthfully, it's because she won't keep her mask on. But Liz is all of this height and full of fire and devotion to assuring that teachers really understand this history and are able to bring it to their students. And I am one of those teachers. So if you come into Liz's circle, if she asks you to do something, you just do it. And I don't know why that is, but it just happens. And some of you know that. She just has this way of making you really appreciate what her mission is, which is to make sure that her father and her cousin and her aunts and uncles and grandparents did not die in vain. And so years ago, I'm a 8th grade teacher at Sutter Middle School, and years ago I was asked to teach about the Diary of Anne Frank, and they gave me about this much history to teach in order to support my students in understanding this much history. And so I sought out, because I knew that was wrong, any good teacher would know that that's not right, and I sought out assistance, and I came to Central Valley Holocaust Educators Network. It's a group of teachers, volunteers, who are turned into fellows and bring this history, are trained by Liz, and we study and we research and we get training from a variety of places like the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, and we present workshops to other teachers so that we can access this history so our students don't get this much history to teach the Diary of Anne Frank. And it has changed my world. And if you think about it, every teacher we have touched, so I've been with Central Valley Holocaust Educators Network for over 10 years. I serve, in my capacity, 70 students. So that means just myself. I've impacted 700 students to understand this history and the difference it makes to stand up for others, to not stand by when hatred and bullying and mistreatment of others, to not stand by. Because that's what this history teaches us, not to stand by when others are being persecuted. It doesn't matter that it was, the goal of the Holocaust was to eliminate European Jewry. That was their goal. 11 million people were killed, 6 million Jews. It was the goal to eliminate because they were the other. And so Liz has made this her mission. She heard from teachers they didn't know how to access, like me. Teachers like me didn't know how to access the history in order to bring it to to their students. And Liz set out her mission to do this, and it's strictly volunteer. We don't have big benefactors like San Francisco has, like LA has. We are serving all kinds of Sacramento County and further on a shoestring budget. But you meet that woman, you'll know how. Because she is a Spitfire, she believes in our mission, and I believe in it as well. And what a privilege it was that Carol asked me to be able to present this to Liz. The only difference would have been if she had been here, because you would have seen it in her. She would have gathered you all in her web. You would have believed what she wanted you to do, and then you would have gone out into the world and done the same. Because this woman, she doesn't like to get accolades, but if I had 1 million of them, I'd give them all to her. So on behalf of Central Valley Holocaust Educator Network and Liz Igra, we would like to graciously accept the award on her behalf, and she's going to thank you herself on the screen.
Thank you to the Interfaith Council of Greater Sacramento for recognizing my work with the Central Valley Holocaust Educators Network. Particularly after the terrible news from Buffalo, New York, I am grateful to my fellow honorees and everyone involved in Interfaith Council for helping to improve cross-community relations and resist division and hate. Thank you again.
Thank you. Third, our honoree is our past president of the Interfaith Council of Sacramento, a dear friend of mine, the man we all love and know, ladies and gentlemen, John Fish.
I married my high school sweetheart. We have 5 children. We have 23 grandchildren and coming on 10 great-grandchildren. We've been married almost 55 years. She's the great love of my life. I got enlisted in Interfaith by going to a board meeting when they said we're going to make new officers now. So please vote, and turn the votes in, and we counted them, and I'd been elected president of the board. I still don't know how that happened. But then we did that for almost 10 years, had a wonderful experience, made a ton of friends, learned an awful lot about other faiths, how other people worship, what they do, involved ourselves in lots of events. So it's just been a wonderful experience. The common thread in Interfaith is that we all have a book of Scripture. We all believe we're the child of God. We all believe in doing good, making society better and humanity better. And most of the religions have sacraments and those kinds of things that mean something real special to them, but could be called by a different name at a different faith. One of the things that unfolded while I was president was the shooting in Las Vegas. Rabbi Taff and I were talking about that, so we put a program together that very next night where people could come down to the synagogue, and we had a standing room only group of people, and we asked other faith leaders to speak and tell, just a rally for unity in the community. And I think we've already done 10 of those in 10 places of worship where we just needed to love each other and care about each other and be interested in each other and set aside any boundaries that might have been perceived. The Interfaith overview and venue and people is extremely important in my opinion, because there is something always seeking us out. Right today, as we're filming this, we'd be talking about the war and the invasion in Ukraine and what can be done with refugees and with food closets and all those other sorts of things. Those kinds of things happen every day, every week, every month. They're just called by something different. And when the interfaith people can come together to help, it just magnifies that we are God-fearing people. If I could wave a magic wand on humanity, we would be kinder. We'd be quieter. We'd be gentler. All of the screaming and loudness and contention leads oftentimes to corruption. We don't need that. We just need kinder people. Everybody wants to be the emperor and nobody wants to be the servant. And I just think in the world we need lots of people who want to serve, who want to give of their time and their talents and their energies to uplift other people and to help other people. We all need to be helped. At some point in time, we all have need to be helped. And those that come to our aid are the kindly and the gentle and the sweet.
And to present this award, I ask Charles to come on the stage, please. Charles?
I'm quite honored to be up here to introduce John. The fact is probably most of you have lots of stories of John's work and his experience. I know him first through from the Interfaith Service Bureau, which was the previous name of our Interfaith Council of Greater Sacramento now. And actually, John passed out lots of Power One awards, right, over the years. He's been, several of you, no doubt, have received it from John under his tenure as the president at Interfaith. And he took the council through a lot of challenging times, especially finances. And some of you from the Interfaith Service Bureau Board remember these times, and we're involved in a lot of that. And I'm so grateful because of John's absolute commitment that this has to go forward. This cannot die. Especially it was RCC TV back then, now it's Sac Faith TV. It can't die. And his absolute commitment to seeing that happen. And the beautiful thing is that John always outreach to people. He visited so many different congregations and denominations, the in-person touch. Being there as a friend. And as John always says, when we know each other as friends, then you can't hate that other person. And John was the example of doing that. Going out and visiting people, showing up for the Sunday service, showing up for the worship event. Remember, we did so many events at Salam and many of the different communities. And so his outreach was only matched by his storytelling. So John always had a story that he could share that would like open up people's hearts. Just the real life experiences would open people's hearts and make it much easier to embrace, to work together. Leaders in the community would often come to John because, I need some people in front of the cameras. So John would get on the phone and he would get them. He would get us there, right? For really so that the community, so that the world saw people of faith are committed to these issues. That people of faith care about what's happening. And bringing us together, bringing the community together, that's the vision and mission of the Interfaith Council, is that as a community, of a diverse community of faiths, that we can come together united in supporting that we are committed to a good, healing community and society. So even after John left the Interfaith Council, he still was active. Remember the Center for Interfaith Studies of America, right? And some of the meetings with Father Bonucci, I think. Just continuing with the commitment that the more we can understand and appreciate each other, then the easier it is for us to get along. Not that people need to change their religion, but by understanding and valuing and appreciating all the different traditions, then actually God can work. God can work in all of our communities and in all of our relationships. So I'm really grateful that I get to be the one up here to share this. John, even while very busy and interacting with all of the traditions, very active in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, still an active volunteer. He's got volunteering in his blood. And I really appreciate that. We have benefited a lot from that. And so with that, I just want you all to welcome John up. Let's give him a big hand, because all of you know him. John Fitch. God bless you, John. Yeah, please.
Tell me you want the story.
I've got 3 and they're short. One is that I'm really thankful to be here. Since I left the Interfaith Council, I've taught 3 grandchildren how to drive. Second story is, when I was 7, my father was killed in an accident. And I sat on the front porch with my 2 older brothers and thought to myself, if I live to be 75 years old, it's going to be a long time before I see Dad again. In a couple of weeks, I began my 75th year. And he left about 2.5 months ago. That's just the way it's been. The third story I wanted to tell you was when Charles said visiting congregations. I think I've been to about 1,000 different meetings, not of my faith. Yep. And in an African American community in South Sacramento, in the middle of the service when they say stand up and greet your brother and sister around you, a little girl about 3, dressed to the nines, stood up on the bench and turned around and faced me and said, "Do you want to hug me?" And I said, "I do." And I looked at her mother. Her mother was, "That's okay, you can do that." And I hugged her. And then I said, "You're beautiful." And she said, "Oh, I know." I can't tell you what the pastor said that day, but I'm not going to forget her into the depths of eternity. I wanted to say quickly, too, that it's wonderful to be in a room with kind people. We're in too many gatherings these days with anger and hate and angst and discord. It's nice to be with the kind people. I'm also really glad to be with friends. If you have a friend, you're a rich man. If you have a lot of friends, you're extremely wealthy. And I'm grateful for friendship and grateful for each of you. Lots and lots of good friends. And then last of all, I have to remind you, we all live in the same house. We came through different doors. So, Serene and Akram, Carol, so many others, thank you very, very much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this part where we recognize the 3 organizations in our community, it is an absolute honor for me to be presenting the Community Service Grant to 3 well-deserving organizations that have exemplified service to their diverse communities through numerous outreach channels. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by recognizing the first recipient of the Community Service Grant, Al Misbah. Located in Elk Grove, Al Misbah began in 2014 as a youth group yearning to give back to the community. Now, Al Misbah has grown into a full-fledged charity organization and food bank that caters to the underserved populations across Northern California. The individual that leads this organization is Imam Yasser Khan. Imam Yasser led this Al Misbah's first distribution in 2014. That distribution served 10 families and was a result of collecting funds from a small group of people. Since then, Al Misbah has collaborated with organizations and members of the community and now serves over 1,200 families a month. You may assume that as a food bank, they only serve food to those families. This could not be further than the truth. This incredible organization serves to fill every need imaginable. They provide families with cleaning supplies, hygienic supplies, rent assistance, and furniture. Now, if that wasn't enough, Al Misbah also works to assist refugees in their resettlement. They help families with eviction prevention and are able to provide mobility to families through donated vehicles. Al Misbah has become a valued and trusted ally in refugee assistance and resettlement through the Northern California regions, as over 90% of the 1,200 families they serve every month are refugees. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Imam Yasser and Helena Silmi and on the stage, please. Imam Yasser and Helena.
I'm Elena Silmi. I'm the resource director at Al Misbah, and I just want to thank this amazing community. Honestly, we couldn't do any of this without our community support, everyone's support coming together, no matter what religion, race. It's all, everyone doing, this is all above us. We couldn't do it without everyone. So I just want to say thank you for giving us this amazing award. We're humbled. And let's continue to do good for our community. If we can't do it, who else is going to do it? Thank you.
Second on my list is World Relief. The organization comes alongside refugees and other immigrants in vulnerable situations as they build their lives in the United States. For more than 30 years, they have been welcoming immigrants and refugees across Sacramento. Beginning in 1989 with refugee resettlement, and in the past several years, broadening and deepening their services. Since 1989, World Relief Sacramento and partner churches have welcomed more than 30,000 refugees, and partner churches have welcomed in the Northern California. For decades, they have empowered churches, community organizations, and people like you to adapt to the challenge of the moment for the sake of the refugees. As needs have increased in recent years, they have expanded their work beyond refugees to include all immigrants in vulnerable situations. Today, World Relief Sacramento is part of a national network of offices through which more than 400,000 immigrants and refugees that have been welcomed to this country. I would like to call the representative from this organization to come on the stage, Megan Skurty.
I am so excited and humbled to be here as a representative of World Relief. As you may or may not know, we have some of the most diversity in this one relatively small in terms of large city. Our refugee population is outstanding, and it continues to grow. In Sacramento, our two largest populations are Slavic populations and Afghan populations. And there's some pretty, we can say, turbulence happening in Ukraine and in Afghanistan right now. So we are so excited to continue to offer really holistic services, everything from that initial resettlement all the way to free legal services for vulnerable immigrants and refugees. We all are really together. I love to be in my position and get to look out into audiences like this where we do all just want to support each other and find different ways to do that. So this is absolutely incredible. I thank you so much to Carol Lowe, who found us and reached out to us. And I had no idea that there was a coalition like this that existed. And what a beautiful thing to see people who come together with this core thing in mind. Let's support and let's love each other. And I'm so grateful for this. This will be amazing for us to continue our services. We have so many people. I remember the first family that we welcomed from the Ukraine during this crisis was a family of 6, and all they had, mom and dad both came with a backpack, and that was it. That's all they could get before they had to leave. And just thinking of, what that must feel like. Some of us have refugee and immigrant stories, and some of us have it in our family that's not very far off, So there's a lot of people that need this extra love and this extra support. So I encourage you, it sounds like we have a lot of people who are helping with refugees right now, as they should. These are people that are very under-resourced and under-supported. So thrilled to have your support now, and hopefully to use this as a platform to say, go out and support some refugee resettlement agencies, some other smaller nonprofits that are doing this work too, because we all could use the love, and our clients could use the love. So thank you so much for this.
The third organization we want to recognize is called Kelly's Cookies. At Kelly's Cookies, their goal is to reach out to the youth in our local region, with emphasis on ages 18 to 24. They offer a mentorship program combined with employment opportunities and provide a job, training, and work experience in many areas. Their mission is to mentor, employ, and inspire foster and at-risk youth in the greater Placer and Sacramento regions, empowering them to achieve independence as well as financial and social prosperity. I'd like to call a representative from the Kelly's Cookies to come on the stage, please. Ken Lomax.
Kelly promised me I wouldn't have to talk, but it's really tough for me to come to one of these and not talk. I want to just tell you a little bit about Kelly. She's always had a passion for cooking, for baking. In addition to her love for baking, Kelly has a huge heart for helping children, as you're going to hear about, especially those who come from broken homes or challenging circumstances. As a past mentor with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, Kelly witnessed firsthand the positive effects that mentoring a child can have on that child. Recently, Kelly opened her heart and her home to a young adult who had aged out of the foster care program. Through this experience, Kelly gained a lot of insight into the struggles that youth face every day. Every day, kids are aging out of foster care. They hit 18, and you're done. You're on your own. After operating a bakery for over 19 years, she decided to continue her passion and create an organization to mentor, employ, and empower at-risk youth, including aged out in foster care. On behalf of Kelly's Cookies, I want to thank you.
You don't, excuse me, you don't know how many kids this is going to help. Thank you so much.
With that concludes our program for the evening. But before I ask Charles to come and do the closing prayers, I'd like to recognize actually Carol. You've done an amazing job presenting this. Carol, please stand up. She put in so much hard work organizing this event. Carol, we appreciate you, so thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, I also like to thank our behind-the-scene people who never seen or be recognized as Owen and Ron, who's done an amazing job on video and audio-visual. Thank you, guys. And I'd like to thank the Interfaith Council board members for each and every one of you who've done so amazing job bringing faith communities together, building bridges among faith communities. So thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you.
I'm going to interject here. I'm Sylvia Villalobos, along with TJ David, and we're the founders of International World Peace Rose Gardens, and we're providing the roses tonight. And many of you know that we created the World Peace Rose Garden at the state capitol, and it's probably the only state capitol in the world that is dedicated to world peace. Plus we have 9 others throughout the world: China, India, Mexico, all over. But anyway, so these roses are special. They're created for world peace. And these last 2 vases, I really would like to give one to Serene. Thank you. And we gave one to Carol. And the last one to Akram.
Thank you for coming and sharing this very special occasion. It's just a labor of love, and through working on this project, I made many more friends. I'm a SMUD friend. Phil's already my friend. John I adore. There's just so much joy in doing this work, and as I always tell everyone, we all came from the same place. And when we cut our finger, we all bleed red. So please be kind and loving to everyone and find out what they're about before you decide to make a judgment. Thank you for joining us tonight.
So let's give a thank you to all the faith leaders here. Yes? So we hope you've been blessed tonight. Have you been blessed?
Yes!
Do you have hope?
Yes!
It's a time of inspiration, right?
Yes!
There's so much bad news, but we've got some good news tonight.
Yeah, we do!
Yes! Okay, so please, everyone, if you join me in prayer. Actually, everyone please stand up. Let's let God know we're here.
Yes!
Yes. Good. Sister Hansa. Yes. Welcome. Okay, please join me in prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for your loving compassion, for your care, for your fatherly love that guides us, for your motherly love that embraces us, for the vision that you have for a world of true, your children, one family under you. We're so grateful for what we could see tonight and pray that you found joy in the interactions, in the fellowship that happened tonight, but especially to see these people committed to bringing your goodness, your healing, your kindness to the world, and especially here in our Sacramento community. We want to offer up to you that you can find joy and comfort in seeing these people of dedication and devotion, and that we ourselves also can be people that can multiply that goodness, multiply your healing healing in this world, in this environment around us. So we thank you together as your precious, loving children, sons and daughters, as brothers and sisters. We pray this together. Amen. Amen. God bless you, everyone.
Leaving us.
She's giving out the box for the
for the award.
Thank you, everyone.